Mentorship Programme, coordinated by the Insurance and Pensions Commission, IPEC, and the National Social Security Authority, NASA. My name is Lloyd Gumbo, Public Relations Manager at the Insurance and Pensions Commission. I will be moderating today's session. Insurance and pension matters are perceived complex, and as a result, some journalists, they generally shy away from covering this sector, yet the media play an important role in terms of demystifying insurance and pension matters. So we really look forward to journalists helping the public understand better, have a better understanding of insurance and pensions, so that they can make well-informed decisions based on the understanding that they would have received from the media coverage. So it is against this background that as IPEC and NASA, we came up with this program to help sensitize the media on insurance and pensions, so that they are also informed, which will help in the process as they inform, educate, and entertain the public. They do it also from an informed position. And this, we believe, will also give them an opportunity to cover the sector objectively. On this call, we have IPEC and NASA senior management. I will introduce the team from IPEC now, and my colleague Tendai Mtsekwa from NASA will then introduce the NASA team on the call. We will be joined by the Commissioner of Insurance, Pension and Provident Funds, Dr. Grace Mradzikwa, as the program progresses. But for now, we have Mr. Robson Mtangadura, our Director Actuarial. We have Ms. Samantha Nende, Director Corporate Services. We have Mrs. Swongile Swela, Director Insurance and Microinsurance. Mr. Blesmoka Zengura, Director Finance. Mr. Cuthbert Joma. We also have managers from the commission. I will now invite Tendai to introduce the NASA team. Tendai, you can proceed.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lloyd, and good morning, colleagues. It's always a pleasure to have these sessions here. We missed them last year, and hopefully this year we're going to have some fun. For NASA today, we've got the acting general manager who will be presenting later on, Dr. Chao Shawa. We've also got the acting digital and contact center manager, Agatha Dondo, and myself, Tendai Mtsekwa, the Deputy Director, Marketing and Communication. I'm not seeing anyone else. If there's a colleague from NASA who I've left out, please just shout out. I think that's the team for NASA at the moment. Thanks, Lloyd.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Tendai. We welcome colleagues from the media, from a number of media organizations, print and electronic, as well as digital, from throughout the country. We have made sure that the program is fully represented in terms of media sectors, that people are coming from both public and private media. We have them on the program. So we have about 40 journalists who are participating in this year's mentorship program. These are journalists. Some of them were already covering insurance and pension matters. Some they had never covered the sector. So we look forward to quite an informative engagement throughout the sessions that we're going to be having this year. Just some housekeeping issues before we proceed with our program. So for this year, we are going to have 5 sessions. We have today is the first session, so we have 4 more sessions that will take us until July. We'll be having 1 session per month. So that will be from this month up to July. That will be the last month of the program. So the journalists who are on the program, we are also going to be facilitating their capacity to be able to join us for this session. We are going to be paying data allowances equivalent to US $20 per session for those on the program. All the journalists on the program will also be required to produce at least one article per session. So what's going to be happening is each session will have about 2 presenters. For instance, today we have NASA, we have IPEC. So from the 2 sessions, we believe one should be able to produce at least one article from each session. These will be required to be submitted before we proceed to the next session. So please, we encourage the journalists on the program, if you can endeavor to make sure you produce. 1 is just the minimum. You can produce as many articles as you can. It's allowed. We will also have awards for the best performing journalist after each session. So this will cover the categories print, electronic, and digital. And the winning journalists or entries for that particular session, the winner will get $200 equivalent, and the runner-up will get $150 equivalent. So this will be for each session. So for instance, today is the first session. The winning journalist from this session will be getting $200, and the runner-up $150. We also have, for the first time in this program, we have introduced a provision for mentors. We have 4 mentors, some of whom have participated in this program for the last 5 years. They've been on this program, and we believed they would have a lot to share with the other journalists who are probably joining for the first time. So the mentors will be allocated mentees. So mentees will be allocated to each to a particular mentor. The mentor, the responsibilities of the mentor will include, among others, helping the mentees in terms of pitching their stories from each session, in terms of helping them even in coming up with an article, sometimes helping them have a better appreciation of the particular angle that they want to take. So those are some of the responsibilities of the mentors. We encourage the mentees, please cooperate with your mentors when they request you to do something. Please, we request that you cooperate. It's for your benefit. These are experienced people who already have an appreciation of the sector of insurance and pensions, having covered it for a very long time. So these will be allocated. You will be advised of which mentor you belong to. I will proceed to particularly on the issue of the entries again. So you will be required, after you have published an article, you will be required to submit the article. NASA and IPEC will then adjudicate over those articles, and the judging criteria shall be based on, among other areas, relevance, originality, and creativity. On originality and creativity, the issue is we have presenters for each session. So sometimes the tendency is just to regurgitate what the presenters have presented. So we want to see you thinking outside the box, or even using what the presenters have presented as a signpost for you to then identify a unique angle out of what has been presented, so that we can be able to better inform the public. And also creativity. This will require this covers the way or the manner in which you couch your article, how you present your article, for taking away the boring aspect. of the subject of insurance and pensions in courts to make it more exciting, just being creative around how you present your article. We also encourage multi-sourcing. We are presenting this platform not for us to say, just write this A and B. We expect you to be able even to multi-source, get comments from consumers themselves, get comments from the industry, get comments from analysts, get comments from the regulators. Sometimes, you find an article that's just one-dimensional, or it's just single-sourced, which may not present the other view which may be there. So we request that you multi-source as you are working on your articles. Then we also encourage you making sure you facilitate or promote engagement on the areas that you would have covered in the article. And the last one for now is informative. The article has to be informative, it has to be educative, so that the public, the people who will be reading or hearing or watching your news item, they should be able to say, okay, I learned something out of this. That will help in terms of meeting our objective, which is to create awareness and also education on the part of the consumers. That brings me to the end of the housekeeping issues. Please note, as we are going through the presentations, if you have any question, we request that you note it down, or then open up the platform for Q&A after the presentations. That then takes me to the next item on the agenda, which is the presentation. Also, let me request that colleagues, if we do not have the platform, if we can kindly mute our microphones to avoid disruptions or challenges with the call. We will now proceed to the presentation by NSSA on the role of NSSA in the insurance and pensions market. There has been a slight adjustment on the program. We'll start with NSSA, and then IPEC will come after NSSA is done with the presentation. So to take us through the NSSA presentation is Mr. Shava, as mentioned earlier, Dr. Shava, as mentioned earlier by Tendai. He's the General Manager at the National Social Security Authority, NSSA. Doc, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Director of Ceremony. I just want to confirm with Tendai that there will be a PowerPoint presentation from us as well.
Yes, we will avail that later on, sir.
Okay, thank you. Welcome everybody to this important occasion, which obviously is important in disseminating information about pensions and insurance across the country and the industry. Director of Ceremony, the IPEC Commissioner General Dr. Grace Muradzikwa will be joining us later on. The IPEC staff who are here present, colleagues from NSSA who are present here, journalists and their mentors who are also here, ladies and gentlemen who are attending this important occasion. I am honored to be welcoming you today to this occasion to officially launch the 2023 edition of the Journalism Mentorship Programme. This mentorship program is aimed at promoting journalists' greater understanding of the insurance and pensions industry in Zimbabwe, including social protection issues as well. I am thrilled to see
Thank you, Doc. Now we can see you clearly.
Okay, thank you. This mentorship program is aimed at promoting journalists' greater understanding of the insurance and pensions industry in Zimbabwe, including social protection issues as well. I'm thrilled to see so many media professionals gathered here today, as I truly believe that your role in informing the public about the intricacies of the insurance and pensions industry cannot be underestimated. Journalists here are essential in keeping the public informed about important issues and events in our society, including developments in the insurance and pensions industry. However, this industry can be complex and challenging to navigate for those who are not experts in the field. By providing journalists with a better understanding of the sector, we hope that they will be able to provide more accurate and comprehensive coverage of these important issues to the public. This mentorship program has been ongoing for the past 5 years now. I'm delighted to note that even in the face of the deadly COVID-19 pandemic, which restricted physical interactions, the program continued through digital platforms and which enabled us to migrate our engagements online. Today, as we have put journalists from across various media organizations, it is delightful to imagine the extent of media coverage that will be expended on all insurance and pension funds related matters. While the program is targeted at enhancing journalists' appreciation of the insurance industry, I believe that the benefits of this program will extend beyond the journalists themselves. For instance, this program will promote transparency and accountability in the insurance and pensions industry. It will encourage insurers and pension providers to be more forthcoming with information about their products, processes, as well as practices. This increased transparency will empower and benefit the consumers of insurance and pension products. Through accurate and informative reporting by journalists, consumers will have a better understanding of the industry, enabling them to make informed decisions about the insurance products they purchase. Furthermore, this program will benefit the insurance and pensions industry itself by fostering greater understanding and awareness among journalists. The industry will be able to communicate its products and services more effectively to the public. This will lead to greater trust and confidence in the industry, ultimately increased demand for insurance and pensions products. Closer to home, as NSSA, we hope that the improved media coverage for social security matters stemming from the mentorship program will stimulate growth in the number of individuals covered by our social security schemes. We have a crucial role to play in alleviating poverty and vulnerability through provision of social security coverage. However, due to myths and misconceptions about social security, many individuals either fail to realize that social security is their right and hence do not enroll on our schemes, or simply do not access their benefits when they become eligible. Currently, only about 1.4 million Zimbabweans are covered under our social security schemes, against an estimated total labor force of nearly 4.4 million, that is 3.913 million, according to the Q3 2022 Zim Stats labor force presentation. Hence, working with you as our partners, we can realize awareness on the importance of social protection in not only ending poverty in all its forms, but in promoting sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, as well as promoting equality amongst citizens of this nation. As an organization, we remain focused on becoming a world-class provider of social security services by 2030. As such, we are constantly working on various initiatives at improving the livelihoods of current members, as well as extending social security coverage to currently excluded groups of workers. We are now regularly reviewing pension levels so as to cushion our pensioners against inflationary pressures and hence preserve the buying power of their pensions. Secondly, as part of our mandate, we are focused on promoting occupational safety and health in the workplace through teachings as well as health and safety assessments and other interventions. We have also embarked on a number of initiatives aimed at improving the resilience of our pensioners, which included, but not limited to, the following: a revolving fund to assist pensioners and the beneficiaries who are interested in embarking on income-generating projects; discounted groceries at selected retailers, as we recently increased our footprint to other towns across the country; zero bank charges for our pensioners at NBS and ZB; medical outreaches with the NASA mobile clinic. We have established a clinic for our pensioners in Harare, and the work is in progress to establish the same in all our 6 regions. We are also helping our pensioners with goat farming as an outgrower program that is based in Kwekwe, and a model scheme in Bindura and Gwanda, providing suitable housing for grossly disabled pensioners under our accident prevention and workmen's compensation scheme. I recognize that a greater percentage of Zimbabweans, particularly those working in the informal economy, are currently excluded from social security coverage. We are working on developing an informal sector scheme that considers the needs of players in that sector. Already, we have produced a report on the feasibility of extending coverage to this informal sector, working in partnership with the ILO. Now we intend to undertake extensive stakeholder engagement, which will culminate into a nationwide informal sector needs survey assessment. It is our hope that the information collected from this survey will enable us to design and a cost-suited, sustainable scheme that meets the needs of the informal sector. Hence, we are excited about this mentorship program, as we believe that you will be able to support us in our efforts to extend to the informal sector scheme. This is one area that will be very excited if journalists and their mentors can really tap into this, research on this, and report extensively on this, because it's a new scheme that we are introducing and that we want to introduce. I shall not venture much into the unpacking of NSSA at this stage, as this shall be done during this year's program. However, I would like to thank those of you who have provided media coverage for our regular meetings with pensioners, through which we unpack our mandate and vision to these important constituents, and more importantly, to understand our pensioners and the workers' needs. Constant dialogue with our clients and stakeholders guarantees the relevance and sustainability of NSSA. This is a national treasure that requires a sense of ownership from everyone here. We all own NSSA, and we must all love it. We should preserve it. I applaud you for the great work and of enhancing visibility of pensions and insurance matters, and encourage you to continue doing so. We depend on your ability to inspire interest around NSSA issues, which include obligations of both the employer and the employees, and the entitlements or benefits that are available under NSSA. NSSA now considers you brand ambassadors who can educate stakeholders on NSSA matters, not only through the media, but even with your acquaintances and the colleagues. As we launch the Journalists Mentorship Programme for the year 2023, NSSA commits to providing resource persons who will equip you with the much needed information and knowledge to write balanced stories on our two schemes. We also invite journalists to come and enroll on our OSHMAC course, which is very important in your reporting of our schemes. We also welcome your feedback and suggestions, particularly on ways of enhancing the quality of our program. It is my profound hope that this new season of the program will take insurance and patience to a new height as stakeholders continue to gain more understanding owing to the participating journalists' informative and informed coverage. So, ladies and gentlemen, once again, I have the pleasure and the honor to officially launch the Journalists Mentorship Programme for 2023 Open. And I would like to invite those who will be in Bluewayo that we have got a Pensioners Trust Forum that is happening in Bluewayo next week on Tuesday. It will be an exciting time for you to join them there and understand what the concerns of our pensioners and our other stakeholders will be like. I would like to thank everybody. Good day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doc. Tendai, Doc can proceed to the presentation.
No, you was asking whether I was going to circulate a presentation after this, but he was just presenting this paper.
Oh, the speech. Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much, Tendai. Thank you very much, Doc, for your speech. I'll invite maybe if interventions or questions from colleagues before we proceed to the next segment. If you have, maybe you need clarification on some of the issues that Doc raised in his speech, this is the platform. You can proceed to raise your hand so that we can give you the platform to ask. Thank you. Thank you, Shingrai. Thank you for that proposal that you ask at the end of the session. Just one moment. One moment, colleagues. We'll be proceeding to the next segment. The commissioner will be presenting the next one. If we can just give a 5 minutes to settle down, then we proceed with our program. Thank you.
Lloyd, there's a question. Somebody's asking if Doc can explain the goat outgrower scheme. I didn't cut it. It just popped up and disappeared. Let me check. It's okay. First, there's a comment. Dr. Shawa, thank you for naming us brand ambassadors. That's from Ebo Chipanera. And then Prosper Love is asking, may the doc kindly explain the goat scheme they are doing? Didn't hear about this scope. Didn't hear about its scope. Is it there in Bulawayo or Matebeleland?
Thank you for asking that question. Our GOT scheme is in two portions. The first one is an investment. This investment is in Kwekwe. So what we are doing in Kwekwe is we are intending to have an investment where we have got an abattoir where we will be breeding goats up to a maximum of even between 2 and 10,000. We have already secured 600. So this will be an investment scheme, and we are hoping that we will be exporting goat meat both locally and internationally. So this will be an investment that NASA is basically doing as part of our contribution towards the agricultural value chain. But tied to this is also a pensioners assistance program in goat rearing, where we intend to establish goat rearing schemes for our pensioners. So basically what we do is we support our pensioners establish a goat rearing scheme, which will then feed into this investment in Kwekwe. So the Kwekwe will be the main investment center, and our outgrowers in all our regions from our pensioners will actually be breeding the goats and selling them to the investment. So currently we have started with the Bindura, where the process is already almost completed, and the identified farmers are already in the process of rearing their goats. We have also done Gwanda, which is currently under development. We have already done the structures and so on. So basically, this is to support our pensioners locally. So these are the two schemes these are the two pilot projects, Gwanda and Bindura, that we have started for our pensioners. We'll be decentralizing this to all our regions and the identified centers so that we support our pensioners to keep them going, to improve their health, as well as to empower them to do goat breeding, selling it to our main center in Kwekwe, where all the processes and everything will be happening. So basically, that's an overview of the goat project that NASA is having. I hope that answers you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shaba, for that response to the question. We will have another chance for more questions after Dr. Mradzikwa's presentation. I will now invite the IPEC Commissioner, Dr. Grace Mradzikwa. She is the Commissioner of Insurance, Pensions, and Provident Funds. She is going to take us through the IPEC, the role of IPEC and the insurance and pensions industry in the market. Dr. Mradzikwa, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Director of Ceremony. Just allow me to acknowledge, I think, the colleagues who are on the call. Dr. Shava, we really appreciate the collaboration that we have as we try to enhance the knowledge of insurance of our sector, you know, in the fourth estate. So thank you so much for joining us and being with us. Director of Ceremony, can Tinashe kindly share my presentation? I'm not seeing it from my end. Can you see it?
Thank you. One moment, Commissioner. Maybe for the benefit of some of the journalists who have never met you, if you can just enable your camera briefly, and then you can then disable it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, thank you. I hope you can see me clearly. You can see my beautiful face. Lloyd, can you confirm you can see me?
Yes, we can see you, Commissioner.
Okay,
Commissioner.
thank you. Thank you. I still cannot see my presentation from my end. Mr. Gumbo, can you assist to make sure my presentation is on the screen?
Allow me to share from this end. Let me share from this end.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I can see the presentation now. I think if you can put it on a slideshow, Georgina. Okay, so thank you very much. Thank you once again for having me. If I can just move on, Georgina, to my presentation outline. If you can move on. Okay, so my presentation outline is I'm going to speak about the Insurance and Pensions Commission. I'll give you an overview of the insurance sector. As you are aware, we regulate, we administer 2 acts. We have got the insurance bill and we've got the pensions bill. So we, unlike in some jurisdictions where you actually have 2 regulators, you know, for pensions and for insurance. In this country, we've got 1 regulator for insurance and pensions. So I'll give you an overview of the insurance sector and I'll give you an overview of the pension sector. And I'm also going to share with you our 2023 key priority areas. So if we can move on. Starting with IPEC. So we're a statutory body which is established in terms of the Insurance and Pensions Commission Act, the IPEC Act, Chapter 24, Section 21. Our key mandate is to regulate the insurance sector and private occupational pension funds for the protection of policyholders and pension scheme members. IPEC does not sell insurance, and I want to emphasize this because very often we get people, policyholders and pensioners, you know, will come to IPEC seeking compensation, and yet I think their contracts are actually with our regulated entities. So we do not sell insurance and we do not receive any pension contributions. So our role is basically to register insurance entities, pension funds and administrators, and to regulate and monitor the activities of these insurance entities and pension funds to ensure that they adhere to set standards. We also exist to provide information to the public on matters relating to insurance and pensions. And also a very key role, you know, of the Commission is to advise the Minister of Finance on matters relating to insurance and pensions and provident funds. So technically, we do not expect government to be discussing insurance and pensions issues, you know, without IPEC being on the table. Georgina, I think you moved too fast. Okay, so yes, rationale for regulation. You might ask, so why is there need to regulate? You could be running your supermarket, the TM super, are they regulated? So why regulate insurance? So we regulate for the protection of the interests of policyholders and pension scheme members, and also the stability of the insurance and pension industry and the financial sector as a whole. As you are aware, our regulated entities are collecting premiums, and they are promising that they will make good, in the event of a loss. So, it's a promissory note, and hence the need for regulation. And then finally, we also regulate so that we can have develop the insurance and pension industry, a safe and sound pension and insurance industry. Let me just speak briefly about our strategic direction. So we have a 5-year plan, which has been running from 2021 and will end in 2025. And according to this plan, we have a vision, and our vision is to have a safe, vibrant, and sustainable insurance and pension industry by 2025. I just want to emphasize a number of key issues here. Safety, speaking to the soundness of the insurance industry, and vibrancy, really speaking to the products, that, one can access, from the insurance industry, relevant products. That is our expectation. And then, of course, sustainability of the insurance industry going into the future. And our mission is to regulate, supervise, and develop the insurance and pensions industry for the protection of policyholders and pension scheme members through regulatory excellence. And I'm emphasizing regulatory excellence here because you actually notice that this has been a focus area for the Commission in terms of capacitating the Commission so that we have the necessary skills and resources to be able to regulate and supervise the industry effectively. So our value proposition, we're speaking to professionalism. We want to be reliable. In fact, we are reliable, in setting our own high standards. In fact, we have a service level standard, with the industry that we regulate. We're speaking to accountability. We are answerable in terms of ethics and governance. We're speaking to fairness. We want to develop and apply rules and regulations and procedures equitably across all our clients and stakeholders. Integrity, we apply agreed policies equally to all, maintain the highest of personal, professional, and ethical conduct. And excellence, we are striving to exceed expectations by upholding utmost quality standards and providing assurance on decision making. So we call these PAFI, our PAFI values. And now allow me to move to give you the overview of insurance, starting with what is insurance? Okay, you may ask. So insurance is a contract. It's a contract, and this is why, very much when you speak about insurance, it's premised on contract law because it is a contract. It's a contract between two parties, the insurer and the insurer. So the insurer promises to make good a loss that may or happen to the insured at a future date as a result of a certain event in return for a pension. Insurance is a risk management tool. So the insured, on the other hand, also pays a consideration, which we call a premium. Okay, just moving on. So insurance is premised on what we call the cardinal principles of insurance. And I always say, in my talks that, because insurance is based on principles. We normally think about insurance as a contract between ladies and gentlemen. We do not necessarily expect charlatans in this industry because, of a number of issues which I'm going to speak to. So we start with insurable interest. So you must have insurable interest for you to take up a policy. So I cannot just wake up and say, okay, I want to insure Mr. Gumbo's house. The question that will be asked is, what is your interest? So you must have an interest to protect that asset. That is what we call insurable interest. So in contracting with a policy holder, the insurer always examines and satisfies themselves that the insured is an insurable interest in the asset that they are insuring. So utmost good faith, that is one of the cardinal principles of insurance. So what do we mean by utmost good faith? We are saying that we trust, because you can come in and you say, I've got a house, my house is in Glenlawn. In the house, I've got two 20-inch or 30-inch television sets. I've got 20 beds, they cost $500 each. Normally, because it's a contract between ladies and gentlemen, we rely on utmost good faith that whatever you declare, for instance, in your proposal form, you are speaking the truth. And also, the insurer who is actually undertaking to pay you in the event of a loss, you trust that that insurer will make good of that loss. So that is basically, in layman's terms, what we mean by utmost good faith. We always rely on utmost good faith. So we also have what we call proximate cause. So proximate cause, we are looking at when there is a claim, what is the proximate cause? What caused the loss? And this is what attaches, to the contract. So when we are assessing whether the claim is indemnifiable or not, we want to look at what caused the loss. Was it an insured peril? So for instance, we'll look at, was it flood? Was it lightning? So that is what is called proximate cause. I'm not going to dwell too much on this because, you are starting, some training. I'm sure at some stage you go into the detail of some of these principles, but I'm just going to touch on them very briefly. So indemnity, again, I've already touched on it, when I referred to proximate cause. So usually, most contracts of insurance, they are contracts of indemnity. You expect to indemnify the policyholder. So what do we mean by indemnity? We are saying that we'll put you in a position that you were before the loss. That is indemnity. But we do have some contracts now which are coming in, which do not necessarily speak to indemnity, like where we are talking about parametric insurance, for instance, but I will not go into that for now. I think for now, what I just need you to understand is that one of the principles of insurance is there must be indemnity. So our expectation is that you should not be profiting from insurance. So if you have a claim, we do not expect you, for instance, to come out richer, or poorer, but we expect to put you as close as possible to the position that you were before the loss. So mitigation of loss, we expect that, for instance, when you suffer a loss, let's assume, for instance, I'm going to give an example here. Maybe there's a flood, you've had a flood and you are operating a business premise. We do not expect you to say, oh, my premises are insured, and I'm not going to do anything. We expect you, for instance, to make sure that you take measures to minimize the loss. So you would need to move in as quickly as possible, make sure you take the water out, you recover whatever goods have not been damaged, so that at least there's some salvage out of it. So you mitigate your own loss. We also talk about subrogation rights. This is, for instance, where there is a loss and you have been indemnified by the insurer, you subrogate your rights to the insurer to actually claim, from whoever would have caused the loss. In very simple terms, we also have contribution, where we expect you, to also contribute, towards the loss. Very briefly, I think those are the cardinal principles of insurance. And like I said, you are going to go into detail. So what do we mean when you talk about the nature of insurance business? So, we have given, that chain there, basically showing that. So we start with the purchase of policies by policyholders. And like I said, you pay a premium in consideration of that. And these funds go into a pool. So insurance is a pooling arrangement. You are contributing into a pool so that the fortunes of the many, okay, that's normally, that's how a pool is supposed to work. In fact, the misfortunes of the few are paid by the fortunes of the many. Because you can imagine, if you've got a pool, you've got some people will claim, some will not claim. And maybe year one, Mr. Gumbo claims, Mrs. Mradzikwa doesn't claim. Year two, perhaps it will be Mrs. Mradzikwa claiming and Mr. Gumbo is not claiming. But you are creating that pool. And one of the considerations as a regulator is to also make sure that you have enough funds in the pool for the liabilities that you are assuming. So then, you know, from the pool, the claims are paid to policyholders, you know. And when you now look at the insurance value chain, you know, this is who are the players who are in the insurance industry. So we start with the broker or the agent. You know, the agent, you know, is actually the face, you know, of the industry in most cases, you know, and they are selling the insurance product, they're explaining the insurance product. And on the other hand, for the reinsurers, you also have what are called reinsurance brokers. You know, the broker will take the policy, they give it to the insurer. I think I wish I had a pointer so that you can actually see, you know, you can see the arrows there. You to the insurer, the reinsurance broker is also ceding to the, not ceding, they are placing business with the reinsurer, and then the reinsurer is also placing business with the retrocessionaire. So, you know, you've got your policy holder there, you know, being serviced by the insurance broker, you've got the insurer being serviced by the reinsurance broker, but the policy holder pays the premium to the insurer is his own retention based on their balance sheet. They decide how much they're going to keep, you know, for their own account. You know, whatever is excess, they are ceding to the reinsurer. The reinsurer also decide how much they want to keep for their net account, and they also cede to the retrocessionaires. So in our markets, we'll come to the structure, you know, of the industry now, the architecture of the insurance industry. We have 12 registered life assurance companies. And when I talk about life assurance companies, what comes to your mind will be companies like Old Mutual Life, Fidelity Life, First Mutual Life. Those are the life insurance companies. And then we have got 8 funeral assurance companies. So we do have the likes of Nyaradzo and Doves, who are now life assurance companies, but they are doing a lot of funeral business. But you also have funeral assurance companies, the likes of the Moonlights and so on. I think you were all aware of them. I'm sure we all have funeral policies of one sort of the other. And then we have the short-term insurance companies. The short-term insurance companies are the ones, those who insure your motor cars, you know, what we call short-term policies. These are annual policies, your cars, your houses. They do marine insurance, public liability. Those are the short-term. In the US, these are called property and casualty companies. We have 20 of these companies. So you have the likes of Nichols Diamond Insurance, Zimnat. You also have Old Mutual, which is the short-term entity, you know, among others. We have micro insurance companies. You know, we have got 10 of these. So the micro insurance companies, you know, will speak at some point, you know, to our minimum capital requirements. You know, we have allowed micro insurance companies who have got less capital, you know, than the short-term insurance companies and funeral assurance companies. We're expecting these to be coming, you know, to the, in fact, our intention is that the micro insurance companies will assist us, you know, as they save the underserved, you know, with some of these products that are really speaking, you know, to the grassroots and digestible policies. We've got the likes of the cover links and so on, and we've got 10 of these companies. And then we've got reinsurance companies. We've got 10 reinsurance companies. I think we are all aware of them. The Emeritus Re, the FBC Re, you know, ZEP Re, among others. We have 28 insurance brokers, okay? And so the insurance brokers, like I said, they are the face, you know, of the industry. You know, among these, I'm just picking and I'm not advertising them, colleagues, but top of mind, you'd have the likes of Minerva, Capital Insurance Brokers, you know, and so on. You also then have 8 reinsurance brokers, you know, and we have 32 multiple agents. We have 2,279 corporate and sole agents. You know, sole agents, these are, in some cases, they are referred to as dedicated agents. They are writing business on behalf of a particular insurance company or life insurance company. So giving us a total, colleagues, of 2,407 registered entities in the insurance sector. Just moving on. So just some highlights of that sector in terms of gross premium written and also the Forex business that they are writing. So as at December 2022, this sector wrote 173 billion Zimbabwe dollars, and Forex business was 146 million US dollars. I think you can see there, from that table that, from 2021 to 2022, registering a growth of 353%, nominal growth. And Forex business registering a growth of 59% between December 2021 and December 2022. So you see, even when I give you the pension highlights, that this sector is largely dollarized. And I would say that probably between 65 and 70% of the business now being underwritten by the insurance sector is now Forex. I think it's really speaking to the value preservation issues that I'm sure we'll also speak to later on. In the hyperinflation environment, you would need to be reviewing your asset values frequently for you to keep up with inflation. So you can actually see that policyholders are now preferring to insure their assets in US dollars so that, it is not necessary for them to be reviewing, their values frequently. And in terms of asset base, also looking at the combined asset base for the insurance sector, moving from 113 billion in December 2021 to 392 billion as of December 2022. Some good growth there. If we can move on. So I'll move on to the pensions overview. If we can move on. So starting with what is a pension? I think pension ngatinyatsitaura muchedu pension ndoya yaitaiti mudya ndigere inonzi mudya ndigere, and this is why I think we are getting a lot of pensioners and would-be pensioners asking, so what we have today, mudya ndigere, it is a form of insurance against old age poverty or loss of income after retirement. So it's a retirement plan, basically, and this is what mudya ndigere was. So the assumption is, while you are still active, like most of you, you are working, you are putting a little bit of money aside, for when you are no longer able to work. And then ochita mudya ndigere, which is what you will now be using, the savings that you will now be using during your old age. Let's move on. So we're also looking at the pensions process. So you have the accumulation phase, like I said, active age. And I'm assuming most of you, like me, I started working when I was 21. So you can imagine working from 21 and retiring at either age 60 or 65. It's the accumulation phase. You're expected to be saving. And the issue here, members of the fourth estate, which we are seized with is that, I think because of some of the legacy issues that we are seized with, a lot of people now, they want to eat today. Can you go back to the last slide? I'm not done. They want to eat today. So we are also interrogating, the level of savings, that we are actually having, in the industry, as opposed to some of these non-pensionable allowances, the non-monetary allowances, the effect of which is that it's depreciating or dissipating your savings, your accumulation phase. And then you now move to the decumulation phase. This is now where you are spending the money. So basically that is the pension process. You are accumulating and you go into the decumulation phase. During the accumulation phase, these savings are invested, and so on. And then, for your future consumption. If we can move forward now. Okay, so what are some of the elements, of an effective pension? I've already started going into them, but like I said, we are looking at, adequacy of pensions, of the benefits. We are looking at the security of the assets. We are also looking at administrative efficiency. And, when we're talking about administrative efficiency, this is where, we are speaking to the pension fund administrators, the governance issues around the pensions. We are talking about fit and proper for the board of trustees, the trustees that we're entrusting, with the pension funds. We are also talking to sustainability, and we are also speaking to pension coverage. We would expect that every working person, should have a pension. So you should give us a very good pension coverage ratio. But these are the key elements, that we look at in evaluating whether we've got an effective pension system or not. If we can move forward. Let's move forward. Okay, so the architecture of the pension sector and the statistics that I'm going to share with you, these are as of 31 December 2022. We have 981 pension funds. 2 years ago, I do remember speaking to some of your colleagues, we had over 1,000 pension funds, to be specific, about 1,100 pension funds. So one of the issues we've been seized with is to make sure that the inactive funds are dissolved and the members get, their savings. Because what we noticed is that we had a lot of inactive funds, and which are just being hit on by costs, and resulting in loss of value, in the savings for members. So we really have been engaging the sector so that all inactive funds, all funds which are struggling, for instance, they need to either be dissolved or they need to join what we call umbrella funds, where you put a number of pension funds together and then you have the benefit of, at least sharing, in the costs of administration of those funds. And out of these 981 funds, only 504 are actually active funds. The balance are inactive funds. So these are the funds, that we are actually saying, dissolve them, so that the members can have full benefit, of their savings. And we have close to 1 million members, including beneficiaries. To be more specific, the number is there, 932,236 members. Pensioners, we have 35,202. and 25,565 beneficiaries. If we can move on. So just giving you some pension sector highlights, the assets as of December 2022, we are looking at 1.11 trillion, assets. And in terms of asset concentration, you will actually find that of these 1.1 trillion, 977 billion is investments in properties and quoted equities. So we are saying 72% of the industry's assets are actually in property and quoted equities, speaking to the value preservation, issues, that we will deal with, I think, later on, on this program. And $193 million is actually in equities and prescribed assets, accounting for 65% of the forex assets. So, property and quoted equities are value preserving assets. Notwithstanding, yes, we know that the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange had a bearish performance, but we are hoping that, it will recover, and we'll see, I think, good performance actually coming, from the ZSC. If we can move on. Still on pension sector highlights, just talking to pension income and expenses. I think this is very, very important because, very often, we hear, a lot of noise levels about, the level of investable income, for the pension sector. Everybody thinks, the pension sector has got a lot of money and we should come to the pension sector, for all sorts of investments. So in terms of total income, we are looking at 705.4 billion, and we're looking at 313 billion, of which was fair value gains, 222 billion interest, 81 billion contributions, and out of which 89.5 billion were expenses. We have interrogated the expenses also for the pension funds. And at least we are pleased, to have noted that 76% of the expenses actually went towards the core mandate of paying benefits to members. We are seized, with the other expenses for service providers for this sector. I think some of you might be aware that we have an expenses framework, I think, which we released in January, and basically the expenses framework aims to cap the expenses of service providers to this sector. We would like the contributions to, in the main, they should go to the savings, and they must go to benefit the pension scheme members, not service providers to the sector. If we can move on. So I'll move, I think this is the last segment of my presentation, and I'm sure the director ceremonies will now allow me to take some water. I'll speak to our 2023 key priority areas as a commission. And I'm on record as actually saying, as a regulator, we want everyone to know what we are running with. We want everybody to know our concerns, our key areas of concerns, so that we can be aligned. You know, when you also look at your own internal priority areas, they must be aligned with the regulator. And so I think for you as journalists as well, it's important that you assist us, you know, to make sure that, you know, these key priority areas are well publicized. They are broadcast. Everybody knows, and they also assist us, you know, to make sure that at least we achieve our mandate. So we are running with a number of programs and outcomes. Okay, so we have 3 programs that we are running with in terms of our strategic plan for 2023. The first one is policy and governance. And the outcome out of that is improved organizational performance and image. And you heard me speaking to regulatory excellence. You know, we want to make sure that the commission is performing, the commission is well resourced, the commission is visible, and has a positive image, you know, out there. Our program 2 is industry regulation and supervision and protection. And this is our core mandate. It's speaking to our core mandate, really. And the outcome that we're expecting from this program is improved pension and insurance benefits. As some of you are aware, we introduced a bread index tracker last year. So our expectation is that every pension fund now is tracking the benefits that they are giving to their pensioners according to this, the loaves of bread. So they should be asking themselves, okay, if I am giving them 500 bond per month, this is even less than a loaf of bread. So the expectation is that the pensioner will be eating half a loaf of bread for the month together with their grandchildren. If they are like me, we has got grandchildren, you know, we are eating half a loaf of bread. You know, if they are giving them whatever amount, what does it equate to? So we now expect this to be a boardroom agenda, you know, for all pension funds. And here the commission as well, we are tracking, you know, the average loaves of bread that the pensioner is getting. And we are using this to engage the pension funds and administrators to make sure that they are giving pensioners reasonable benefits. We are also expecting improved compliance and industry soundness. You recall I did say that our vision is we want a safe, vibrant, and sustainable insurance industry by 2025. The last program, 3rd program we are running with is industry development. So we do have a mandate for market development. You know, as a regulator, we want a sustainable industry. So it's also our responsibility to make sure that the industry is growing. There's innovation in the industry. So the outcome there is increased industry growth. So just speaking detailed to go into outcome 1, which is improved industry compliance, you know, around pension, you know, we're speaking to compliance with the new Pension and Provident Funds Act regulations and key circulars, the consolidation of small and unsound funds, enhancing the pension funds governance, data integrity. I want to emphasize data integrity issues and retention, you know, and prescribed asset compliance. For insurance, it's a culture of strict compliance with statutes, our regulations, and frameworks, and also the corrective orders that we have issued, you know, over the last few years. Establishing a well-coordinated and structured risk-based supervision framework. RBS means risk-based supervision framework. We have limited resources, so the approach that we are now adopting is a risk-based one. We are also looking at compliance with the ZICAP and IFRS 17. I'm sure you're all aware that the industry is now expected to comply with IFRS 17 in terms of reporting, and then lastly, prescribed asset compliance. Let me move to outcome 2. Improved pension and insurance benefits. I'm really just here. I'm beginning, I hope not to sound like a broken record, but this is a focus area for the commission. You know, we would like to complete the pre-2009 compensation. I know some of you have been really coming to us and challenging us, you know, on the progress that it has taken for us. I think Madam Shradaya, my presentation has disappeared. I'm now seeing Agatha Dondo's presentation. I was just about to end. Agatha, if you can stop sharing.
Agatha, just a moment, if you can stop sharing. Thank you.
Okay, Madam Shadaya.
Georgina, you can proceed.
Okay, if you can put it on slideshow. Thank you. Okay, so I'm pleased to say that as far as the pre-2009 compensation Justice Smith recommendations, we have actually come up with the draft regulations. The draft regulations are now in the ministry and the Attorney General's office. But in the meantime, we have shared these draft regulations with the industry, and we've asked the industry to start computing the compensation schemes such that when the necessary statutory SI comes out, at least we will not lose time. So this we expect to be one of our game changers for 2023. We would like to complete this exercise. And then we are also going to continue with the implementation of the guidance paper on currency reforms. This one is speaking to the 2019 currency reforms. You recall when we had the 1:1, we issued the guidance paper, which has been guiding the industry just to make sure that pensioners, get real good benefits, In fact, basically what the guidance paper seeks to do is to make sure that the pension benefits that the pensioners are getting, they are in line with the asset performance, of their assets, in their pension schemes. And this is why we had the asset separation project, in 2022. We want to be able to identify the assets belonging to the policy holders so that when we look at their pension benefits, they must be in line with the performance of their assets. Okay, we're continuing with tracking benefits, like I said, aligned to asset performance. We're enforcing the expenses framework. We're enforcing compliance with all the frameworks that we've issued. Around insurance, we are also enforcing the treating customers fairly, just to make sure that customers are being treated fairly. We are strengthening our product approval process. In this respect, we want to make sure that all the products that the industry is outlaying to customers are relevant, and speaking to customer needs. And I know this one is a very hot topic, but I'm also assuring you that we are also looking at remodeling the funeral product. We will soon be issuing a directive to the funeral sector around our expectations, on funeral products. Outcome 3 is the improved industry soundness, and around pension, operationalizing the new legislation using Zimbabwe mortality tables. We've been working on Zimbabwe-specific mortality tables, and we expect to release this in the coming month. And we expect that it will improve the pricing and modeling, for our industry, because instead of using 1959 UK mortality tables, this one will actually speak to our own mortality structures. Resolution of financially unsound funds, and of course, completion of the asset separation for the industry. We completed the asset separation between policyholders and shareholders. We are now looking at asset separation per product, per fund, so that is our focus area for 2023. Around insurance, safeguarding the integrity of the financial system, IFRS 17 implementation, ZCAP implementation, which is speaking to risk-based capital requirements. And lastly, dealing with premium debtors. The industry is seized with premium debtors, and this is really affecting their capitalization levels. So we are also coming up with a no premium, no cover SI in the coming few months. Outcome 4, I think this is the last one, increased industry growth. I think on pensions, we have increased our efforts to improve the pension coverage ratio. And we can only do that if there's relevance, policyholders and pension scheme members, can see the relevance of occupational pension schemes. Promoting innovation, introducing micro-pension framework, and very, very important, restoring confidence in pension savings through enforcement of fair treatment of customers. Around insurance, development of agriculture index insurance, when you look at the contribution of agriculture to GDP, and then when you look at the contribution of agriculture insurance, you can actually see that this is a low-hanging fruit for the industry, and there is need for us to develop products around agriculture, you know, which speak actually to farmers' needs. We want to promote innovation in the industry. We have had an innovation lab which has been running, and we'll be concluding this. And our expectation is that from this innovation lab, they're coming up with some products which are going to be game changers, you know, for the industry. We have a new innovation lab, which is also called the Bima Lab project, which we are spearheading at the Commission. Here we are trying to see how our insurtechs can contribute to increasing the level of insurance penetration in the industry. We think there's more that they can do. So we are currently engaging them in this lab project, reviewing and strengthening the microinsurance framework, and also restoring confidence in savings, again, through fair treatment of customers. Madam Georgina, if we can move on. Okay, so in conclusion, I just want to say that the insurance and pensions industry is key for risk mitigation, social protection, and economic development. And you, the media, we want to acknowledge that you play a very important role in demystifying insurance and pensions. And also, you know, as we seek to improve and restore confidence in the sector, you know, our expectation is that you will join us and assist us to make sure that we achieve this. And my plea to you this morning is, let's all play our part. Let's all play our part to ensure that we have a sustainable insurance and pensions industry. Thank you, Director of Ceremonies. I'll pause and take any questions. I do have my colleagues on the call and they join me. They will join me, I think, to respond to some of the questions. I'll be calling on them. Otherwise, thank you very much. Thank you for listening and thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Commissioner, for your presentation. If members on the call could indulge me, NSSA have a short presentation that they would want just to highlight, and then after that we take questions for both presentations. Dr. Shaba, Agatha, you can proceed to share the presentation for Dr. Shaba to then present. Thank you. Georgina, you can stop sharing. Thank you. You can proceed, Doc.
Yes. Can you put it on PowerPoint, please? Okay. Thank you, everybody, once again. I'll just go through this quick presentation so that our journalists can have a rough understanding of what exactly NSSA is and the way we fit in the world pensions and the insurance industry and the market itself. Next slide. So my outline will be, I'll do a quick overview of the social insurance, the position of NSSA, okay, that's fine. So that will be the structure of the presentation. Can you go to the presentation itself, please? Yes, so quickly, I will want to quickly define some very important terms which a lot of our people don't understand, but which are very critical as far as NSSA is concerned. First of all, social security falls under a broad arm of social protection, which is actually a set of public measures that a society provides for its citizens to better manage the life cycles of life. When we say life cycles of life, we are talking about preconception to old age death. So what is social security? This is a redistributive, not for profit, that's the critical thing, not for profit, usually mandatory contributor schemes providing compensated support in the event of contingencies such as illness, injury, disability, death, unemployment, and old age. And what is social assistance? Social assistance are non-contributor transfers in cash, vouchers, or in kind, including school feeding to individuals or households in need, public works programs, fee waivers for basic health and education services, and so on. Those are social assistance issues. Then social care services. This is for those facing social care risks, such as violence, abuse, exploitation, discrimination, and social exclusion. And then we also have labor market programs like like promotion of labor market participation or ensuring passive, which is ensuring minimum employment service standards. So NASA provides social security through contributory schemes. Next slide. So there you are. The International Labour Organization identifies 9 key components or contingencies that underpin social protection. As a country, Zimbabwe, currently, we are only covering 4 of those under our 2 schemes. These are the pensions and old age benefits, as well as under our exit prevention scheme, worker injury. So we are currently covering those 4, as you can see on the encircled spaces there. So which means we are actually not covering maternity, we are not covering sickness, we are not covering unemployment, we are not covering medical care, and we are also not covering families with children. These, we have to find some way of covering them. And as you know, NASA is still quite young, less than 30 years old. We hope in the next 10, 15 years, we should be covering a number of these schemes. Just to say, the maternity one, NASA did quite a lot of work on it, and where it was moved to the Ministry of Health, so it might be covered under the Ministry of Health. Next slide. So, social security versus private insurance. So these are very important differences that I think you as journalists must understand. We deal with social security, and we have got private insurance. That difference is very critical in your reporting. So what does social security involves? The purpose really is to provide a safety net for retirement, disability, and survivor benefits. The scope normally is national programs aimed at covering the whole population or specific groups of the population. Eligibility normally is available to all eligible workers, and risk pooling is normally social security pools risks across a large population, which helps to ensure that benefits are available to eligible individuals. But the normal insurance and pension products that we have in the market, these are private insurance products normally used for profit making, which is different from what we do in NASA. The insurance in the private industry focuses on selecting those who can afford the insurance cover, and they do not result in excessive losses. The insurance may have eligibility requirements based on age, health status, or occupation. Private insurance pool risks among those who purchase the policy, which may lead to higher costs for individuals with higher risk profiles. So those are the critical differences that you must understand about what NASA offers as a social security organization and what our private insurance and pension products deal with. Next slide. So, social insurance contributes to the attainment of the social SDG goals. Without social insurance, it will be difficult to realize SDG 1, which states that social protection systems, including floors, are essential to ensure that no one is left behind. So goal number 1 talks about ending of poverty in all its forms. Goal number 3 talks about ensuring health lives and promoting well-being for all at all ages. Goal number 5, achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. Goals number 8 talks about promoting sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for all. And goal number 10 talks about reducing inequality within and among countries. So these are the 5 SDG goals which social security covers. Next slide. Under investment in social protection constitutes not only a social challenge, but also an economic challenge. since Social Security can help to reduce poverty and promote social stability by providing a source of income for people who may not be able to work. This is actually very critical. In other countries, like in the Western world, these benefits are actually provided for free. They can afford it, we can't afford it. Social security programs can also help to stimulate the economy by providing a reliable source of consumer spending. We are already doing this because we are creating employment, creating other sources of national income, national development through our investments, which we do in order to be able to sustain our pensions and other obligations. Social security organizations also undertake significant investment spending, which can create jobs and stimulate growth. That's what I was talking about, basically. Next slide. So NSSA is definitely a key player in the national pension system, as you can see. Pension administration in Zimbabwe is done through NSSA and the Public Service Commission. Private pension schemes are regulated by Dr. Grace Muradzikwa's IPEC. NSSA is designed to coexist with other occupational pension schemes, thereby providing a primary safety net. So this is very critical for you journalists to understand that while IPEC regulates private and profit-making pension funds, we exist and we are designed to coexist and supplement them. So we are a primary safety net, not the main pension scheme. That's the critical thing. The lower contribution rate and capped insurance earnings are meant to allow employers and employees to contribute more towards the occupational pension schemes. So we only take 9%, 4.5% from the workers and 4.5% from the employers. The reason is because we want to leave the big chunk to occupational pension schemes so that they can provide better pensions on retirement, and ours will remain a safety net, not the primary pension. NSSA is an active contributor base of about 1.4 million members, while the inactive members are 1.8 million. This is where we want you to help, because this 1.8 million, which is not contributing to NSSA, is what we want to tap on with your help. The main scheme pays pensions to more than 200,000, specifically, actually, at the moment, we are paying 212,000 pensioners, whilst our accident prevention and workmen's compensation schemes pays more than 7,000, just about 8,000 now. We are obviously seeing an increase in the number of people claiming our main pension scheme, claiming pension on that scheme, and this is going to increase as we go. Next slide. Right. So, what is the national vision? The national vision is to provide a prosperous and empowered middle-income society with job opportunities and a high quality of life for our citizens. And what is our vision? NSSA's vision is to be a world-class provider of social security by 2030. So we are actually trying to support the national vision, and we are doing that. That's our mission. Our mission is to provide sustainable social security and promote occupational safety and health to all Zimbabweans. As I said, we are running 2 schemes. NSSA values. Our values are based on professionalism, accountability, commitment, transparency, teamwork, and integrity. If we are not finding these values in our team, please challenge us. Next slide. So our mandate is to provide social security. NSSA was formed in 1989, for those who remember very well. John Nkomo, the current Minister of Local Government, was then the Minister of Labor. No. He was then the Secretary for Labor, whilst John Nkomo, the late Vice President, was the Minister of Labor when this act was done in 1989. Administratively, we are governed by a tripartite board, which includes government, employers, and employees. That's one of the challenges that obviously emanate from a tripartite arrangement in terms of efficiency, but it is what it is. We administer 2 schemes. The first one was the Accident Prevention and Workmen's Compensation Scheme, which was established in 1990. This scheme used to sit under the Ministry of Labor as a commission. It was actually then headed by a commissioner, but it was a department which used to fall under the Ministry of Labour, and it was responsible for accident prevention and workmen's compensation. I think you all know about compensation properties across the country, the compensation houses. These were developed during by this scheme when it was under the Ministry of Labour. So when NASA was formed in 1989, this scheme was then moved to NASA as the first scheme. Later on, 3 years later, we then established the Pensions and Other Benefits Scheme, which is our big scheme now, contributes to about 70% of our income. And this scheme basically deals with the pensions and other benefits. These other benefits include disability, death, and so on and so on and so on. Next slide, please. Yes, I've already talked about this. We are created by an Act of Parliament. We are administered. We are supposed to establish 2 schemes. Currently, we have to establish schemes. Currently, we have got 2 schemes established through those statutory instruments. So these are separate schemes established by separate statutory instruments. And our POPs, which is a partially funded pay-as-you-go DB scheme. Both schemes are mandatory. We also administer under the Accident Prevention and Workmen's Compensation Scheme some legislation that are attached to it. And the 2 key legislation that we are administering is the Factories and Works Act, which seeks to protect the workers in industry, and also the Pneumoconiosis Act, which seeks to prevent a pneumoconiosis in the dusty occupations like mines, quarries, and so on. Next slide, please. So, the NASA pensions. Under the current inflationary environment, our pension has been eroded, the purchasing power has been eroded, and the power of people's incomes have been eroded. Pensions have not been spared either from this negative phenomenon. Also, the current conflict in Eastern Europe there is not helping our cause. So in our ability to cushion our pensioners, we have been regularly reviewing our pension level to cushion pensioners against the effects of inflation. We have been actually consistently increasing pensioners' emoluments from July to December consistently every month. And I think Dr. Grace will agree with me, I know begrudgingly, that we are currently paying possibly the best pensions in the industry. And we are paying well above the IPEC recommendation. And as of February, we were paying 41,000. And our APWCS because our pensioners some are in the POP scheme, some are in the APWCS. Our APWCS is a bit more healthier, and as you can see, we actually paid 55,000 and 41,000. This is what we are doing, and this is despite the difficult economic environment. Actually, in December, we were able to pay our pensioners a bonus in US dollars because we felt we had accumulated enough US dollars. We were able to do that. And we will be reviewing the situation as we go. So our intention is to improve the pensions that we pay, but we also have to make sure that we keep the schemes sustainable. We don't want to collapse the schemes by paying very high pensions, and then 10, 15 years, all of us who are working, we can't get anything because we collapse the scheme. So that's why we have got very regular actuarial evaluations. We have deliberately employed an actuary in NASA to make sure that our monthly payouts are assessed actuarially to make sure that they remain sustainable. Next slide, please. So, as you can see, there's been a sharp rise in the number of our pensioners under the POP scheme, naturally because a lot of, since inception in 1994, a lot of people are now retiring and so on and so on and so on. And also because of the unemployment problems, people who are supposed to work up to 65, some of them, they retire at 60. And so on. And some of them get retrenched after contributing for 10 years. Then naturally, they automatically qualify for a pension. So as you can see, there is a steep rise of pensions. Now they are at 218,000 from about 200 So that's an increase of almost 18,000 in about 3/4 of a year. That is the reality that we are facing as NASA. Next slide. So besides that, and to make sure that we remain proactive, we have taken some steps to being a safety net. And in addition, we have also introduced some packages, some products that we think will help our pensioners. One of them is a revolving loan facility for our pensioners. They can borrow money from selected banks and at a very low interest rate. I think it's about 10%. We just want to possibly move it a bit to 50%, but it's currently at 10%. So this is a revolving loan facility, enables them to do projects and so on and keep themselves healthy. We also have a knowledge transfer model that I was talking about earlier on in my presentation on goat rearing schemes for our pensioners. Currently, we have got 2 sites, one in Gwanda and in Bindura. They are a hive of activity. We have also partnered with some supermarkets for discounts on groceries, drugs, and health care products with some pharmacies and some supermarkets. We have also negotiated bank charges exemption for our pensioners with selected banks, and we are also providing mobile clinics as well as fixed clinics. The Harare clinic for our pensioners is already open. There is already a nurse who is providing free pensioners treatment. We are just trying to register our dispensary so that we can also provide our pensioners with the chronic type of drugs that our pensioners would normally need. You are talking about the BP drugs, diabetic drugs, arthritis, painkillers, the things that are associated with the needs of old age. So we will be getting a dispensary open soon, and we'll be able to provide our pensioners with a full clinic for them to benefit. This is part of our non-monetary benefits, because we realize that we can't provide enough in terms of money to our pensioners, because our scheme won't allow that, because we don't have the money under our current circumstances. Next slide, please. So our strategic focus is to ensure that our schemes are sustainable. Scheme sustainability is very key. We don't want to collapse the scheme. We also want to make sure that we have got benefit adequacy. That's why we are introducing those non-monetary benefits. We want to continue improving our service. We want to optimize our ICT system and promote our self-service platforms for our stakeholders, both our pensioners as well as our employers. And also we want to make sure that we increase OSH. OSH is a part of social security. And for those who may not be understanding what it is exactly, it is basically about protecting workers across the whole work platform in Zimbabwe. In other words, even ourselves that we are sitting here, the duty of OSH is to make sure that we are working safely. So this is one of a key social security aspect, which is mostly not very much understood, because normally we always want to talk about things that have got money in them, pensions and so on and so on. But it is a key critical deliverable for us as NASA. And as you'll be aware, we said we run 2 schemes. This is one of the schemes that we are running. One of the things that we want to strategically focus on is obviously increasing our coverage. And this is where we want journalists to really be active on, to ensure that we cover the informal sector scheme. And I think even the IPEC itself, I think I've seen some article somewhere where they are already trying to tap into that market as well, because it's quite it contributes almost 70% to our GDP, because most of our people really are in the informal sector. So it is a sector that we want to tap, because most of these guys, they definitely need this to be covered, but they don't have the information. Next slide, please. So we have challenges, definitely, and one of our challenges is that we have got only 24% of our working population is covered by the NASA schemes. The rest, the employers are either not paying, they are dodging, or they are all in the informal sector side of things. The depressed performance in our capital markets are affecting our returns on investments. The social insurance pension scheme being perceived as the pension fund in the country for pensioners' well-being, as opposed to this is our critical problem. Now, people, when they talk about NASA pension, the impression is NASA is the main pension scheme in Zimbabwe, but no, it is only a safety net. The main pension scheme are the private pension schemes under Dr. Muradzikwa's IPEC. Those are the main pension schemes. What we are only doing as NASA is to provide a safety net. But unfortunately, because we have possibly done well as NASA to continue increasing our pensions, now people think, no, NASA should continue doing more, but we can't. And because of, obviously, the collapse that have happened because of the cycles of financial and economic turmoil that our country has witnessed over the past 2 decades, our main pension schemes, some of them really private pension schemes, they have collapsed, not because of their because of anything or because of mismanagement, because of the reality in the economy. So this is impacting on us, and obviously NASA being government, people go to government to cry. The huge volume of social security data also characterized with gaps, particularly for some segments. That is one of our challenges that we are facing. Data is a problem for us. We also have external risks that can impact on the continuity of our services, for instance, the COVID-19. But we've got interventions that we do in all of this. We are developing the informal sector. We are divesting our investment through moving our investments from the equity markets and from the money markets into the property markets and other reliable investments or more safe investments like renewable energy, agriculture, value chain, and so on. We have also created a national data management unit that will ensure that we have got reliable data, and we are investing heavily in digitalization so that we don't get interrupted during critical times. Next slide, please. I hope it's the last slide. So, our desired outcome, what is it? What is it that we really want for the nation? Is universality of our protection, the adequacy of our protection, the portability and the transferability of benefits, transparency, gender equality, and good governance. These are our desired outcomes. We are working towards this, and we hope we will be able to achieve this. I hope this is the last slide. Next slide. Let's see. Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shaba, for your presentation. We will now open up the platform for questions. Journalists, please note that the presentations will be shared with you after the session. These will be shared immediately. And remember, the requirement is for one to produce at least one article from each session. From the presentation by Dr. Muradzikwa and Dr. Shaba, honestly, I don't think one can say they failed to come up with at least one article. If anything, we are looking at others probably doing 4 or 5 articles from this one session only because of the content that has been shared this morning. We'll open the platform if anyone has a question or a comment. I note some questions were coming through the chat platform, but and they've been responded to on the chat platform. Others are yet to be responded to. So if anyone has a question, you can indicate by raising your hand. We'll give you the platform to ask. Thank you. Shingirai, you have a question?
Yes, thank you.
Proceed.
I'm audible enough?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for the presentations from all the panelists who already shared their presentations. Actually, I wanted to ask or probably make a proposal, if in case you might probably want to view it this way. I understand that the program is working on articles that are being written, but I feel that it is not accommodative to those, for example, content creators in that aspect, that some do broadcasting, some do video, or they run digital platforms in the sense that they do videos or podcasting and stuff. I don't know, as IPEC or NASA, how have you or rather, what do you think can be done to include such people or such organizations with who do broadcasting and online content creation and stuff?
Thank you, Shingrai. If you recall, in my opening remarks on the, I mentioned that we are covering print, electronic, and digital. So everyone is covered, whether it's podcast, whether it's broadcasting, it's TV, it's a newspaper, it's digital, it's an e-platform. As long as it's a media organization, all those are considered. So we are not only restricting to print media.
Thank you very much. I think when you started, we were not yet logged in.
Okay. All right. Thank you. There are some questions that were sent on the platform. Just to confirm.
Lloyd?
There is a, yes, Tendai?
Yeah, I was going to say there are two questions for Dr. Shawa that I picked here. It says, yes. This first one is from, I think, Evidence. I heard you mentioned that mention of a housing scheme for disabled pensioners. Is this already running? And if so, how many have benefited so far? And then the next question is from Ebo Chipanera. Dr. Shawa, you said about 1.4 million Zimbabweans are covered. What is NASA doing to increase the number? Those are the two questions for Dr. Shawa.
Can I respond to that?
Yes, please. You can proceed.
Oh, okay, that's fine. The first one, let me start with the last one where I talked about 1.4 million being covered and potentially another 1.8 million not being covered. What we are doing with trying to increase our coverage is the first thing that I talked about was the informal sector scheme, developing an informal sector scheme, which will try and cover everybody in the informal sector. And also in terms of those that are in the formal sector who are deliberately not covered, because there are some rogue employers who just will not report to NASA that they've registered a business, or who will just not pay. We've got our contributions and compliance team who are ensuring that, because when you establish a formal business and you register your business, the first thing that you should do is you should register with NASA. And by that, you are actually registering the business itself, as well as the number of new employees, the number of employees that we have. So we are ensuring that we have got blitz teams that go out regularly across the country, trying to both educate as well as enforce compliance. And we hope this actually, every time that we do this blitz, actually we see an increase in the number of both contributors as well as new employers. So that's what we are trying to do, and we hope it will continue to increase our numbers. Then the question on the provision of housing to our disabled people. Yes, we are already doing this. This falls under a project we call Project Zimba. I think it will be very interesting for any of the journalists here to follow it up. We have got a project called Project Zimba. What this project does is, under our accident prevention and workmen's compensation scheme, we have got our employees who get injured. Some of them get injured such that they can't continue working, or they are grossly disabled, especially in mines, in industry and so on. So some of them, either they lose their limbs or those kind of catastrophic events. So what we do for these people is we take them to our rehabilitation center in Bluewayo. where we rehabilitate them over a period of time. And when we feel that, remember, when you are rehabilitating, you are providing both clinical, medical support, you are providing physiotherapy support, you are providing, more importantly, occupational therapy skills, so that these people can then go back to their familiar environment. So instead of keeping them at our rehabilitation center, we then take them to their own home, where there are only people around them, and then we build them houses which are tailor-made for their disability. These houses will have toilets, will have water. Now we actually want to provide water for these people, because at times they don't even have water. At first, we're just providing the house and all the associated necessities. So this is something that is already happening under our Accident Prevention and Workmen's Compensation Scheme. It's a very exciting project. 2 weeks ago, our board members went to see one of our clients of that nature, who is actually in Mashingo. So it's a very interesting project, and yes, we are providing this. We call it Project Zimbabwe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doc. I noted some of the questions that were asked on the platform. Dr. Mradzikwa already responded to some of the questions. In fact, to most of the questions, to all the questions. I will now invite Tulan Siziva. You can proceed.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me clearly. My network is actually has issues this side, but my question is directed to Dr. Shava. I say I'm a worker and I'm 35. I get retrenched. Do I get any contributions from NASA since I would not have reached the retirement age as yet?
Right, thank you very much. When you contribute, what determines whether you get something? Well, you always get something. You always get. If you have contributed to NASA, you always get something. But if you are retrenched and you at 35, we won't give you anything until you turn 60. But when you turn 60, we will decide, have you contributed for more than 120 months? If yes, 120 months is 10 years. If yes, you have contributed for more than 10 to 120 months, you automatically qualify for a pension. So we'll give you a pension at 60. If you are retrenched and you get to 60 and you have not had any job and you have contributed for less than 10 years, we will give you your lump sum back, including interest that it would have, because remember, we invest your money. So at that point, we'll give you money that is that your money will have accumulated. So whichever way, at the age of 60, you'll get something. But the reason why we don't pay you at the age of 35 is because we will be saying you might actually get another job before you get to 60 and be able to increase your aggregate of contributions to 10 years. Because the 10 years does not have to be with one employer. You can have 10 years from different employers. All that is important is the aggregate for 10 years for you to qualify for a pension. But if you don't qualify for a pension, you can qualify for our, I think it's a gratuity, I can't remember the name that we use for it, but it's basically paying back what you have paid, including all the interest that it has accumulated over the years. I hope I answered you well.
Thank you.
Well answered. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shava, because this is a question of interest across the board, even on the private occupational schemes. I'll invite our Director Pensions, Mr. Mjoma, just to add on what happens on the private occupational pension schemes in the event that one is retrenched or any other circumstances under which one can access their benefits before the normal retirement age as per the rules of the fund. Mr. Mjoma.
Thank you very much. One can access on retrenchment, depending on whether there's accrued sufficient accumulation, they can automatically now be on pension. If the benefits can't purchase a reasonable pension, which is defined, we normally have a minimum pension that we target, which is currently 40 years. If he doesn't purchase that, then the person would certainly get everything at one go. So retrenchment is one aspect. The other aspect could be dissolution of a pension fund. A pension, these are voluntary, these private occupational pension funds. So once the members and the employer agree that they are no longer interested, they now want to dissolve the pension fund, they apply to IPEC. We do approve that the fund be dissolved. And again, we assess the reasonability of the amounts that would have accrued to individuals. If they can purchase a reasonable pension, then the amounts will be preserved in a fund administrator of choice or a pension fund of choice. If they can't purchase a meaningful pension, then they can actually be paid out to the individuals. Those are the major circumstances. I submit. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mjoma. Colleagues, please note Dr. Mradzikwa has exited. She has another engagement just now. So, but she had responded to the questions on the chat platform. But our directors are on the call to respond to any further questions that may come up. We have about 5 more minutes before we come to the end of our meeting. Yes, Shingrai?
Thank you very much, Lloyd. I wanted to ask, as the regulator, do you have insurance companies that are of delinquent behavior, or rather, those insurance companies you have put on a red book list of challenges with clients or their conduct in business?
Thank you, Shingrai. That's a tricky one, but I will invite Madam Swela just to give a perspective on the measures that we have in place at the Commission in terms of enforcing fair treatment of customers, particularly on market conduct, to ensure that insurance companies treat their customers fairly. Madam Swela, are you still on the call?
I'm on the call. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I want to respond by saying, as a commission, we do have measures in place to deal with the anomalies in the insurance chain. This we do in so many ways. We do monitor the insurance companies' performance on a regular basis. We also get feedback from the policyholders as and when they feel like they've not been treated fairly. And we do take up the issues with the insurance companies to resolve these issues amicably. We also carry out inspection, off-site and on-site inspections on the companies using a risk-based approach that we conduct on a quarterly basis. When we identify anomalies on a company, we then proceed to carry out an inspection, and whatever issues that are then found to be needing attention, we then discuss them with the companies. Thank you. I hope I have answered you sufficiently.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Swela. Shingrai, I believe you have been answered. Just to add that from what Mrs. Swela is saying, the Commission has a responsibility, or one of its mandates is to handle complaints that come from policyholders and fund members. If they feel that they have been unfairly treated, they can report to the Commission. But what I need to underscore here is not being or feeling like you have not been fairly treated or reporting a case to the Commission does not necessarily mean that the insurance company or the pension fund is always wrong and the policyholder or fund member is always right. Sometimes the insurance company may have acted within the provisions of the law in the decision that they would have made. So under the circumstances, you will find that a policyholder, because they expected something, And the commission is aligned with the position that the regulated entity would have taken. So the complainant may feel that the commission has not protected them, yet the insurance entity would have done according to the provisions of the law. So in handling complaints, we look at both the complainant and the entity complained against, and we always endeavor to be as fair as possible. We don't always look at our regulated entities as being truant or delinquent. We look at both the regulated entity and the policyholder or fund member from a perspective of someone who wants to have a fair determination on the issue at hand. We have complaints handling offices. We have one in Harare in town, in the CBD. We have another one in Bulawayo, where people can raise complaints with the commission if they feel that they've been unfairly treated. In Bulawayo, our complaints handling office is at the Bulawayo Center. It's been there, I think this is the 3rd year. So if anyone has a complaint, they still complain to the commission and we assist them. And also, like what Mrs. Swela has said, we also use complaints as indicators of maybe underlying problems within our regulated entities. For instance, if you get so many complaints about a particular entity, possibly dealing with the same issue, let's say maybe it's delayed settlement of claims, we keep getting complaints around that. So it becomes an indicator to us as a regulator to say there could be a problem at this entity, maybe it's solvency issues, we then intervene appropriately. Thank you very much. We also have a question. I think I will direct this to Mr. Njoma. Prosper Love says, Dr. Mradzikwa spoke about the 504 active pension funds out of 981. What, in your assessment, is the reason for these inactive funds? Given this is another question. Given the 1.9% insurance penetration rate, what is the implication of this pattern to the sector as a whole and concerned policyholders in particular? Mr. Njoma, maybe you can address that. And also the second one from Tawanda Msarurwa, he says, how many circulars has IPEC issued since the Justice Smith Commission of Inquiry was adopted? Mr. Njoma, if you can respond to the one on active funds and the one on the Commission of Inquiry, and then we'll come to the penetration. On this one, on penetration, I will invite Mr. Robson Mutangadura, our Director Actuarial, to respond to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gumbo, and thanks, Prosper, for the question relating to the inactive status of pension funds. It is largely on account of changes in the labor market. Generally, the employment levels are changing since the peak of the economy in 1996. We've seen companies closing. We've witnessed migration from Zimbabwe to other, countries. So that has had a bearing on the status, the number of pension funds that are active. The moment the sponsoring employer closes, that pension fund will be considered as inactive because it will cease to receive contributions. So what will happen is it is granted what we call a paid up status. They apply to us to say we no longer have a sponsoring employer. What we now just want is to have those assets invested as people wait for their retirement. So that's one of the major reasons of company closures. We've also witnessed, partly because of confidence issues, legacy loss of value, the employer will still be there, but they decide, given the voluntary nature of the private occupational schemes, that they are no longer interested to continue contributing. They can apply for paid up status, they can apply for dissolution. So essentially, those are the main reasons why they are inactive funds. Then regarding the issue of circulars, there are many. I can't tell how many circulars. Justice Smith Commission was done, concluded in 2017. Just last year alone, we issued about 50 circulars. These were largely, they are divided into two. Some are just informational. Instead of writing, say, to 981 pension funds, individual letters, you issue a circular which will be communicating certain information to the funds. Some who have a permanent impact, there will be a reference point, and this was in response to the archaic legislation that we had. We had an old Pension Provident Funds Act, an old Insurance Act, and these were being reviewed. A new Pension Provident Funds Act was enacted last year with effect from 2 September 2022. So this was a stopgap measure on the part of IPEC to address regulatory gaps which were there in our legislation. We had to issue circulars that speak to governance, risk management, circulars speaking to investments to ensure that there's prudent investment management, circulars relating to the fair treatment of customers, then the changes in the operating environment as the regulator. We also have to be proactive to anticipate the risks, and the circulars were speaking to that. The feedback that we've been receiving generally from the market is too many circulars. But as I've explained, it was because of gaps in our legislation. Now that we have a new act for the pensions industry, we've come up with the draft regulations which are before the Ministry of Finance for gazetting through the Attorney General's office. We are likely to see a consolidation of most of those circulars because they would have been made redundant through the regulations and the Act. So that's the response on the circulars. I think that's it in terms of what has been allocated to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mjoma. And also just to say the about 50 circulars which Mr. Mjoma has referred to, these do not specifically focus on the Commission of Inquiry. These are all the circulars which the Commission issued to the industry. Mr. Mtangadura, if you can respond on the one on 1.9% insurance penetration rate.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gumbo, and thank you very much, Prosper. So I think 1.9% insurance penetration is quite low. What it means is the relatively few people are covered from an insurance point of view. And this has got a significant implication both to the sector and to our country. As you are aware that insurance involves a transfer of risk, this low insurance penetration rate shows that very few people are transferring risk to the risk carriers. So what it means is the general populace is exposed to a significant amount of risk. Should your car be involved in an accident today without insurance cover, it means tomorrow you will be someone without a car. Should your house be caught fire today, it means tomorrow you'll be homeless. So it's actually a challenge on its own. And also from a resource mobilization point of view, I think you also do appreciate that insurance is also another conduit of mobilizing resources for national development, because you are paying premium today for a benefit that you receive tomorrow or sometime in the future. So in between the time you pay your premium and the time you then get your benefits, the resources or the investments from that premium can then be used to develop the economy. I think a case in point is the issues around prescribed assets and stuff. So what are we doing as IPEC to address that? I think here one of the key issues that we are focusing on is around addressing confidence. So it was at the back of our mind, we always ask ourselves, why are people not buying insurance? So issues around confidence, we are paying particular attention. I think Madam Commissioner has raised issues around the conclusion of the 2009 compensation, some other intervention that we have put in place through 2018, 2019 compensation due to current change, and also issues around product relevance. I think since 1990s, I think the economy has changed significantly, customer needs have changed, but more often you find that the market is lagging behind in terms of coming up with products that addresses customer needs. So we are also working together with other stakeholders in the market or the industry to come up with the products that addresses the customer needs. I think issues around the BIMA lab that was also talked about and our focus on innovation. And again, trying to expand insurance provision in other untapped markets. I think Dr. Shawa spoke about the way our market is informalized, and I think it's high time we should then start to look at ways to provide insurance in those markets. So from an IPEC point of view, we've come up with a macro insurance framework, macro pensions and framework. All these are attempts to ensure that at least we extend our products to those markets as an indirect way of increasing the insurance coverage. Thank you very much, Mr. Kum.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mtangadura, for your response. I don't see any hands. Okay, Tulani, is that a new hand or it's a legacy hand?
Oh, my apologies. It's a legacy hand. Sorry.
All right, Nyabo. I don't see any more questions on the platform, on the chat platform, unless I have missed. Tendai, do you see any other questions that have not been responded to?
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you very much. Just for the benefit of the colleagues who may have missed, Mrs. Sibongile Swela, who responded earlier, she's our Director, Insurance and Microinsurance. Mr. Cuthbert Mjoma is the Director, Pensions, and Mr. Robson Mtangadura is the Director, Actuarial, in case you need to attribute some of the responses to them. If there are no more further questions, I will now invite my colleague Tendai Mtsekwa to give the closing remarks. Tendai, over to you.
Thank you very much, Lloyd, for a wonderful job in moderating this session, and thank you everyone for attending. I think first of all, I want to express our gratitude to the presenters, Dr. Grace Muradzikwa, the Commissioner General for IPEC, and Dr. Chao Shah, the Acting General Manager for NSSA, for their in-depth presentations, which I'm sure our colleagues found very beneficial. And I think this relationship that we have with IPEC, it's not just confined to this program here, the Journalists Mentorship Programme, but we also collaborate in other areas, such as the insurance awards that are being advertised, to which members were invited to participate. And also we conduct outreaches such as on pensioner awareness campaigns. So it just shows that as an industry, there is close collaboration for the benefit of society at large. We also want to thank our mentors whom we incorporated this year, out of the realization that there may be colleagues who may need further assistance. It's always beneficial to have a helping hand so that we can enhance our chances of winning the prizes that are on offer, whether the monthly ones or the annual one. And we also want to thank the journalists. Always a pleasure. I see there were quite more than 40 participants, and we hope nobody falls off during the course of this cycle. And I just want to emphasize on what Lloyd said. Participation is important. It's for your benefit, and it will be good for your CV. It will be good for just to increase your intellectual capacity in terms of this area here. And yeah, let's do all we can to help our readers, to help our listeners, our viewers appreciate this important the important subject of pensions and insurance. And finally, I would also want to thank colleagues from NSSA and IPEC, the Secretariat, for making this happen. And once again, Lloyd, thank you very much, and we'll see you next time. Thank you
very much, Tendai. And just to also thank you for raising the issue on further collaborations. We have, in collaboration with NASA, the insurance and pensions industry, we are conducting a medical outreach in Matebeleland South next week. That will be covering from Monday to Friday. We'll be in Gwanda and then Mapisa. So for those colleagues in those areas who may be interested, you can contact us for further information regards the medical outreach. So this is targeting the elderly. We'll be having doctors and nurses. We are also collaborating in that exercise with Impilo Hospital. They have joined hands with us for this particular medical outreach, so that we reach out in the communities there with the medical checks and treatment for the elderly, road accident victims. We will be attending to them in Gwanda and Mapisa next week. We carried out a similar outreach in Harare last year, and our plan is to continue coming up with initiatives that also benefit the elderly in the community by virtue of being key stakeholders to us. And the media awards, which Tendai alluded to, please note the call for entries has since been published. The deadline for submission of the entries is 24 March. Please make sure you submit your entries on time. The period covered is 2021 to 2022. So it also provides an opportunity for those who were in the previous JMP, the Journalists Mentorship Programme in 2021, to enter some of the articles that they may have produced in 2021. So the period is January 2021 to December 2022. So there is a lot of space or scope for one to look for articles that they have published, which they would consider for submitting towards these media awards. So if there are no more further issues, I want to say this brings us to the end of this month's session. Our secretariat will be communicating the date for the next session, which will be next month in April. So make sure that you always keep tabs and produce articles as many as possible. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to contact us. You have questions for NASA, you have questions for IPEC, or you need contacts maybe in the industry, we will be able, or we are always available to assist in that regard. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you to the directors. Thank you to Dr. Shaba, to Dr. Mradzikwa, and to all the participants. Thank you very much. Have a great week and enjoy. Have a great weekend, and looking forward to the best week next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Lloyd.
Thank you. Bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.